right. Hey, hello and welcome to the Swing Smarter Newsletter Monthly. This is your host, Joey Myers from hittingperformancelab.com. And with me today, I have the honor and pleasure. This is actually the second time that we've talked in person. We did a phone chat, I think, for almost an hour or maybe a little bit more with Shawn Sherman. So first of all, I want to welcome you to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Great to get reconnected with you and looking forward to this conversation.
Very cool. So Shawn his website is Square1System, system or systems?
Singular.
Singular. So Square, the number one, without the hashtag, Square1System.com. And I want to dive in a little bit to what Shawn is doing, because I think it's very interesting when it comes to moving better to perform better. And it is something I think that is fairly new to a lot of you out there. There are some things that are similar, but I think Shawn's doing something, and what's cool is he's found this out on his own, in his own curiosity. And as most of you know, I love finding passionate curiosity in other coaches and things like that out there. So first of all, Shawn, explain where Square1System is so people can remember and put your website and figure out where that origin was. So what's the origin of that?
The origin of the name or the whole system?
So Square1System. How'd you come up with that name first?
Oh, came up with a name because I used to actually have a name for the system called Reset. Mm-hmm. And a mutual friend of ours, Brian Eisenberg,
yep.
He was the one that said, "Hey, this is awesome." I was at Pitchapalooza. This would have been about 4 years ago. And I worked on Brian and his son, and I worked on actually Chris Bryant's dad, and we helped him with some pain. And we were all sitting around having a little powwow after our first day at Pitchapalooza. And Brian's like very complimentary, such a helpful guy, such a cool dude. And he was like, "Can I give you some criticism?" I'm like, "Yep." Here's the name, Reset. You need a better name. Like, really? I'm like, I thought that was the only thing that was complete. And so he encouraged me to get a new name. So I had a group of my clients and friends that are really into marketing, and it wasn't going anywhere. And my one friend, Patty, she checked back in. We hadn't communicated about 3 or 4 days. She goes, "How's the name going?" And I'm like, nada. And she goes, "Oh, so it's back to square one." I'm like, "You just nailed it." I'm like, cool. So it was like a happy accident. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I liked Reset. I like Reset before, after I talked and had a good idea of what you do. But that makes sense when you say back to square one systems. I love it. So now let's go into that a little bit. So give me the elevator pitch of what you're doing. So like at Pitchapalooza, you have a booth there and somebody comes walking up and says, "What is Square1System?"
That's the hardest question that everybody asks me. It seems so easy, but I think since we're kind of tapping into some new grounds, that's a really difficult question. So it's one I've been struggling with for years.
Yep.
But I would say, as briefly as I possibly can, my elevator pitch would be, we are basically trying to identify where your sixth sense, proprioception, this internal feel, where there are deficiencies with your proprioception, and we're able to identify and pinpoint where you are individually having an issue between your brain, your body parts, and the ground. And we're able to restore that perception from unsafe back to safe. And when we restore unsafe perceptions back to safe, there's less of a need of the human body and the brain to compensate. So therefore, we're able to help people that are, post-surgical and have rehab issues to the best athletes in the world, because all of us have some flawed perceptions in this area of proprioception. We're able to restore that, get it back closer and closer to our optimal design. And then the ramifications of that are, increase exit velos for hitters, increase throwing velocities for throwers, and then less aches and pains and better mobility and all the other good stuff that we all want to get out of exercise. So I look at what we're doing is, we're not a replacement for exercise. We're just this missing prerequisite step. So we're just kind of moving this continuum of movement from left to right. We're just adding on a little bit in the front end, where we're just going a little deeper than we think other systems that are currently existing out there. So that's a long elevator speech. Sorry.
That's okay. It was interesting. So what were some of the aha moments where, you're in the strength conditioning field, and I don't know if you started down that path of where you're at now. I'm sure maybe you've stumbled onto it like a lot of us have. So where was that aha moment where you're like, and you saw the rabbit hole, and then you started digging? What was that where you saw the rabbit hole?
It's so funny, man. Your questions are so astute, because yeah, absolutely. That I had these different moments where it's like, that's very Dead on, very well probed, man. That's awesome. So my moment was, I was using this other system, and that other system was very much centered around this idea that restrictions and range of motion are always protective muscle guarding.
Mm.
And that's true a lot of the time. And protective muscle guarding is a very real issue that we all have. And so the system I was using, I was helping a lot of people with that. But I had this one client in particular that was not getting good results with that system. And I was always trying to help them. And I just really just kept doubling down and tripling down and doing it with more gusto, but we weren't getting anywhere. And what happened was I took the opposite approach. So I started thinking like, well, this isn't working. So why don't I just do the polar opposite of what I was trained to do? So instead of viewing this guy, his name's Alan, instead of viewing Alan's issues as protective muscle guarding, at that point, I didn't know what the other side of the coin was, but I kind of pursued the other side of the coin, which now I would say is probably like a joint impingement would be the polar opposite of protective muscle guarding. I didn't know that at the time. I just know, hey, I got to try something different. Let's just do the polar opposite. And when I did that with him, he had a pain alleviation. He had this issue of back pain, hip pain for over 20 years. So all his pain was gone. He started standing 2 or 3 inches taller, and he played golf that next morning. And he took 12 strokes off the best round of golf he's shot in over since the late 80s. I didn't believe him at first. I thought he was just calling me up and I thought he was just yanking my chain, but that was the impetus moment. So I was like, whoa, I did the opposite of what quote unquote they told me to do, and ended up having the best result I ever had with a client. So basically the reality of, whoa, you're really onto something here, just slapped me right in the face. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I took an opposite approach. And that just pushed me to dig in further and further and try to come up with an explanation as to what I had basically at first unwittingly kind of happened across is how it happened. So it was a happy accident.
Yeah. And I think the traditional model and maybe what you're talking about is the stretch, when you have a joint that's being protected and then you get a tight muscle on one side and then you get another muscle that gets really long, right? It's this relationship between length and tension relationship, right? So the traditional model is typically to stretch out the tight muscle and to power up the weak muscle or the muscle that's been stretched too much. So talk about it a little bit.
That's what I say. Like everybody thinks it's stretch what's tight, strengthen what's weak. I'm like, it sounds good on a t-shirt, but that doesn't work for a lot of people. If that worked, then why are these like rehab cycles taking like months and months for people with back pain? Or why does someone have a recurring restriction issue? Like, well, I thought I'd stretch this guy like 300 days in a row. Like, why is it still coming back? So it is all about length tension relationships. But what we're uncovering more and more is if we can get the brain to perceive that all of our joint actions are safe in relationship to when there's ground contact, we're gonna get this effect to last longer. So stretch what's tight, strengthen what's weak. It's not saying that it's wrong. It's just that it's not always correct. How's that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And I like you explored every different avenue and all that kind of stuff. So the stretching and it just takes forever if anything to get there. And I know there's a couple of gymnastic programs that are online and major stretching stuff. And you got to spend 45 minutes to an hour and you're stretching and you got to do it like 2 times a week. Let's say that's like a split stretch where you're working a lot of hamstring stuff and you got to do it 2 times a week. And those are brutal. So when you take your system, how long are you talking, like hour-long sessions? Like how many times a week? What are you talking?
Sure. Okay. So there's depends on the population I'm working with. So I have a little studio in the suburbs of Chicago. So my clients, the word of mouth primarily is how they find me. I do hour-long sessions with those folks versus if a team hires me to come in, an 8-hour day, I might have to work on 25 guys. So then they might get 20-minute sessions. So we do a lot of like anywhere from like 15, 20-minute up to hour-long sessions. But in private practice, people come in and see me. A lot of times they have pain. I typically start everybody off with a 3-session package. So I start off our relationship with 3 1-hour sessions. And then if they want to hire me, to take them through some exercise stuff, that's great. But just for the square one stuff, we're making some really killer progress in somewhere between 1 and 3 hours. And then so when teams hire me, these guys, they're like they're younger, they're healthier population than who finds me personally. We're seeing fantastic results in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because once we change that perception, what happens is the brain doesn't have to govern back, the throttle. It literally can, like that true athlete gets to come out. So, kind of back to what you were saying earlier, it takes a long time, 45 minutes to change tissue. So 45 minutes a day for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks to start changing tissue on a more long-term basis. But if we can get the brain to not perceive that the ground is a threat, the changes are pretty much instantaneous. So we start seeing range of motion changes occur within the first 2-3 minutes on the table. And then as we work through layers and layers and layers as compensation, the effect starts being more long lasting, probably after a 20 or 30-minute session. So, yeah. So again, another long answer for you, but I'll say anywhere between 30 minutes and 2 or 3 hours, we have a person in a pretty good place. And that's really on a maintenance program. So that, again, would vary on the individual, what maintenance might look like. But most of my clients, I see them a couple, 2-3 times a year. Kind of like an oil change. Hey, come back in, because they might be working with another strength coach or another personal trainer. I'm not trying to take anybody else's business.
Yep.
I want to be the guy that's kind of filling some gaps and be a resource to these other, movement professionals out there. So
yeah, and what I want people to understand, and I'm in this, when I went into training people and fitness and things like that, I took more of the corrective science route. It's fun to help people lose weight and all that kind of stuff, but I think there's more problem solving and things that go on. I like to use the brain power a little bit more when people come in, they got a shoulder issue or whatever. So going through that rabbit hole, I feel is a lot better. What are some of the, when you're working with somebody, just to give people an idea of ball exit speed, like on average, what you see change wise? So how much work that you work on somebody? So if it's 15 minutes, half hour, and you don't have to break it down that much, but just as an overall ballpark, what are you seeing on the ball exit speed increase for hitters and the velocity increase for pitchers?
Okay. Yeah. So with specific baseball players, I used to be on staff with the Chicago Cubs. So my last year with the Cubbies was kind of, that occurred right after that impetus moment. So those guys in 09, because my impetus moment was in 08. In 09, that Cubbies team got, they had access to the early version of this. But most of our data that we've collected have been on high school and up to D1 hitters and throwers. I would say when we've done it, we've gone in there and we've given each of these guys 10 or 15-minute sessions. Typically with exit velos, which we've seen more of, we haven't done as much on throwers, but on exit velos, I know with this one community college, I think we worked on 12 or 13 hitters. And of those 12 or 13, we had one guy where there's no change. It didn't get worse. It just stayed the same. But the other 11 or 12 guys all improved somewhere between 2 mile an hour exit velo and 15. I think there were 2 or 3 of the guys who were double digits. So like it was not the majority. So our expectation is that everybody's gonna hit 10 or 12 or 15 mile an hour harder. But about 20 or 25% of the guys are going to probably experience 8 to 12 mile per hour harder. I think we averaged, I think it was 5 or 6 miles per hour. So, I mean, we're talking some really serious changes. I know with, before you were rolling here with Ryan Johansson, who's with the White Sox and he has his own private studio, we've had some crazy numbers there. We've had guys that after 2 or 3 sessions where we've seen, again, 12, 13, 14 mile an hour increases. We had a thrower there. There's a high school kid, and you can tell me, I'm more about movement. So I don't care if I'm working with football, basketball, grandma just had the hip replacement. I'm really trying to help people move better. Yeah. So I might be misspeaking here, but we had this one high school thrower, and I believe he was kind of an average high school kid, like probably an average starter. So this guy is not getting looked at by pro teams or anything, but his average, his PR exit velo, or not, throwing velo was, I think it was 81.3. So that's probably good, but not amazing. Is that accurate? Like that's a good high school kid. Average. Yeah. If he can get a few more mile an hour, have some opportunities in college probably, but it was 81.3. So we started working on him and we did a 20 or 25-minute session, and there were multiple coaches around the table. And what we started doing was, I'm explaining what I'm doing. So in 25 minutes, I probably only did about 10 or 15-minute work because I'm educating these guys as well. Yep. And then he had a bullpen. So he threw, I think, 35 or 38 throws. And I might be off by a smidge, but I think it was his first 17 throws were all PRs. Like everything he threw was 81.4 or higher. So in that bullpen, out of those 35 or 38 throws, I think all but 3 or 4 were personal best. So he started hitting, I think he hit like 80, 83 and change, 84 on change.
Mm-hmm.
I proceed to see him for a session, maybe a 10 or 15-minute session once a week. So within 5 weeks, he was up to, I think it was 88.9. So we put on about 8 mile an hour in his throwing velo. And that was in about, maybe it was, he had 4 to 6, 10 to 15-minute sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of work spread out over 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of giving, so that was at Joe Hansen's place there in Elgin, Illinois.
Well, that's taking a guy from NAIA at that 81 miles an hour up to 88. Now we're talking D1, especially if he's I don't know if he's a lefty or righty, but lefties.
I'm pretty sure he's a lefty too. If I'm not, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he's a lefty, which has made us extra excited too.
So 88 as a lefty is definitely D1 and possibly professional. So yeah, I want people to understand what that shift in not so much the ability, but I guess the ability for them to move better without compensation. And there was what first caught my attention, I think Brian Eisenberg, he retweeted something that you had tweeted, and it was to the effect of the best hitters or the best athletes will do things with less compensation or less getting off the path. And the more amateur athletes, compensation wise, will go like, you put numbers to it. It was something like 55 different pathways outside of the most efficient, where the best ones like LeBron James and probably Miguel Cabrera, Mike Trout, those guys end up around like 7 different deviations off the normal. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I can't remember where those numbers came from. If it was something I had posted or if I was using some arbitrary numbers, I can't remember.
Those might not be.
But yeah,
it was something like that.
Oh yeah, so I use the analogy all the time of a GPS. So guys like us that we're not that old, but we kind of remember when we first got our licenses. If you want to drive out of state, you get a road map, and you had your buddy with you on a road trip, and he's telling you go here to go there. But now we have this GPS thing. So what we do is we pop in our destination, and then it bounces these images, these signals off the satellites. And it says, oh, check it out. There's some traffic ahead, or there's construction. Well, it's going to take longer. It's still going to give you the most efficient course in light of the obstacles ahead of you. So that's how we all operate. We have all sprained ankles. We've all fallen out of bed. We've had, different stress exposures over life. And that's really at the core and heart of what causes us to rewire around these optimal, efficient pathways. So none of us are immune to it. So if we have to take the long way around the barn, you have to take the long way to get from point A to point B, you have really one choice. All you can do is just drive faster and get more skilled at driving on the back roads. But if we can actually get rid of the obstacles and the traffic jams so that you can take these more optimal routes, instantly the athlete's better. It doesn't take practice. It doesn't take motor learning, but we're not anti-rehearsal and repetition. We're just saying, why don't we clear out, the hardware? Let's get these pathways open, and then you can get more goodies out of, when you take your athlete through skill sessions or whatever, however you're practicing. So it's really about just reducing, giving the best option to the athlete so that they can, the brain, I would say, it's not stupid. It doesn't want to go the long way around the barn. It does so because it thinks it has to. But once you remove those obstacles, it's going to take the most efficient pathway. And that's why we see posture improvements and we see pain alleviation. That's why you see a guy that, I'm not a baseball coach, and we work with these guys and they're up 2, 3, 4 mile an hour in their exit velos. It's not because I gave them a good pep talk or changed their technique. We might have inadvertently changed their technique, but we didn't really change their approach. We just gave them more options to solve these movement problems. So
I love that analogy, that GPS analogy, and it's not exactly the same, but what I use with my hitters on the movement side. So when you address the physical movement, moving better to perform better versus the strength conditioning to make stronger, and all that stuff's good. But I use the analogy of the car getting brand new tires on misaligned front end, right? So the dealer will tell you, you got 80,000 miles for these tires, and it should last you 80,000. But if they don't fix the front end and you still got these wheels the wheel system is pointing this way where it should be straight, those tires, you're not going to get 80,000, you're going to get 40,000. So when you start to, like you're talking about, like you're just installing a GPS system that will coordinate where the right direction is, but we're also addressing the system itself. So the hardware, like you say,
Yeah, and it's almost like we have this magic button where what's really cool, instead of like, oh, I'll take the best route, like we're saying, No, man. It's like if you can hit a button on your GPS and just got rid of all the traffic, that's what Square One's doing. It's like instantly getting rid of stuff. It's like that. So it's even better than GPS. And then it's like, yeah, man, it's like the secret sauce magic button. You hit it, and people say, "Oh, there is no silver bullets." I'm like, depends what you mean by silver bullet, because I'm not saying we're not doing magic, but it looks like magic. Like you said before, like we're not anti-strengthening and rehearsal and still like that's huge. We need that. But if you're missing this piece, dude, there's so much low-hanging fruit that the industry hasn't taken advantage of yet, and that's what this represents. And I always say too, the early adopters are the ones who get to really reap the benefit, because the coaches and the teams who take advantage of what we're doing right now, it's an advantage over whoever they're competing against. Down the road, everybody's gonna be playing catch up. So then it's like they got to keep up with the Joneses. Just like I always think back to strength coaching. I think it was Boyd Epley at the University of Nebraska. It was like the first strength coach. And this was back in the late 60s, early 70s. So for 5, 10, 15 years, the University of Nebraska had a major competitive advantage over their competition because they were doing strength training. And I guess the Steelers were doing it, but they weren't competing in the NFL. So you had Nebraska and you had the Pittsburgh Steelers that were the early adopters of strength and conditioning back in the day. So I think what we have is this missing piece that just is such an awesome complement to what you're already doing. So that's what we tell people, like, you don't need to burn the bridges on what you're doing. This is just representing there's some rocket fuel for what you're doing. You want to add this to what you're doing. And this is really getting some really, just a unique and really cool way to extract more performance out of all your athletes with this stuff.
Yeah. Big competitive advantage. Like you said, right now, early adopters, this is a big, and again, when I see a product or service or whatever, and I get it, like, and that's, of course, I've had my head in this, and I get it probably a little bit quicker than some coaches, but this is something that my coaches that follow me, my parents and my instructors, this is something that they definitely need to look into. One question before we get to where people can find you and stuff, I want to be respectful of your time, is Tommy John. So I know you've probably heard, being over at Ryan's place, about the Tommy John dilemma. What do you feel from the Square One system? I don't know if you've seen guys that are maybe they're thinking about getting the surgery or whatever, but what has your experience been with Tommy John and maybe athletes that are looking at that or have that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go right back to your analogy talking about when the tires and the front end alignment is just off a little. Not only are you going to get 40,000 instead of 80,000, you're also along that 40,000 miles, you're at a increased risk of like wrecking your car and being in an accident.
Right.
So it's not just lack of performance and longevity. We're talking about increased risk of injury. So tissue gets placed at mechanical disadvantaged positions based on poor perception. So there we have an altered length tension relationships. So that's going to be poor positioning of all of our joints. So we're going to become more susceptible to becoming injured. Now, throwing a baseball, again, as little I know about baseball, I don't really know as much as probably most of your coaches about baseball.
But human movement, and that's all.
Human movement, and I know that throwing a baseball, it might be the most aggressive thing that you can do in sports besides contact sport. Like football, running back, you're running as fast as you can in another guy. Like that's has its own set of deals. But in non-contact things you can do in athletics, it's crazy because you're literally doing as much high velocity as you can, and you don't have to put the brakes on. So you're relying upon your tissue to have to decelerate the limb. Things better be perfect, or it's going to go awry real quick. Or even if it's off a little bit, you might get away with it for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. But just from talking to other coaches, I mean, how many D1 and professional throwers get to avoid Tommy John? Like, not many of them, because if you don't have pristine mechanics, it's just a matter of time. So I guess I can't, I don't have a specific story to share with you about, I had this guy had a Tommy John and we avoided it. Yeah. I just think if it's before Tommy John, there's going to be the benefit of cleaning up your neuromechanics so that you inadvertently just make better decisions, more efficient decisions. So you're at least buying yourself more time. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather, if I was a baseball guy, I'd rather have a Tommy John at 32 than at 18 or 21, mm-hmm. So there's that piece. I gotta theorize that we're going to help people go longer before they would get into some situation like that, or post-surgical. surgical. We have all kinds of post surgical stories on name and injury. We probably have seen people post rehab for hip replacement, even Tommy John. I know some guys that I used to work with the Cubs. We had some guys that had those issues.
Mm-hmm.
I think by getting that perception change better, it's going to just get your rehab exercises, your conditioning exercises. You're just going to get more goodies out of whatever it is you're trying to do. So I think, yeah, I guess so. I don't have a specific, oh yeah, here's exactly what we're doing with Tommy John. I just think if we can get those neuromechanics better, that's going to be nothing but positive for the athlete to have a longer, healthier career. Whether you're just a high school, trying to make the high school team, trying to get a college scholarship, trying to get to that next level where you actually get a paycheck, this isn't going to do anything except for better efficiency, is better movement, is better performance. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it very generic in general, but yeah, we've seen some really cool stories with all kinds of different injuries. I don't have a specific Tommy John story in my mind right now to share with you, unfortunately.
I have one kid that I'm working with. He's been, over the last year, been having a hard time. He's a lefty thrower, but a righty hitter. So I work with him hitting, and he works with my buddy who's a pitching guy. But he just came off of a surgery where they took, I guess, the nerve in the elbow here, and they moved it because he was having numbness of his hand. Anytime he was in a straightened position or in a really, bicep tight position, right? And he'd have this like numbness into his fingers, and just poor guy, And so anyway, they did the surgery and shifted that nerve up. And so now he doesn't have the numbness. He doesn't have the pain he was having before. But when he's throwing, he's still having the pain because he's got to hear. And so, and it was, what was interesting is when he got his post-surgery meeting with the doctor, he's like, I still have pain when I throw. And the doc who went in and decided, when he went in and did the surgery originally, he didn't need Tommy John. He's like, yeah, I don't think you need it. I think you're good. And then it's post-surgery, he's saying, I still got the pain. And the doc goes, well, I mean, we can go in and do Tommy John. I'm like, no, he already told you don't need it. So why would he even advise that? But, the doctor doesn't really know what's going on. I mean, what if a player like that walked in?
Yeah, and they know structure, so it's like they're the top, they're the kings of structure. But the whole thing is like, if you're not paying attention to function, like, well, that's only part of the equation here. So so I look at it like, I'm not trying to like shine a light on what we're doing at Square One, but it's almost like, I think what we're doing is kind of the kings of function. It's like, let's make sure that the brain perceives that all these joint actions can handle load. If it can handle load, the body can make better decisions. So there has to be a functional and a structural piece. And we need docs, and we need people that are dealing with structure in our corners. Like this isn't magic, and great coaching isn't magic. So we need skill, we need motor learning, but we need this motor control piece, and we got to, improve this functional piece. But then sometimes things go sideways, and you need a structural interventionist, and that's why we need good surgeons. But it's like, but asking, a surgeon functional questions, they might not be that well versed in throwing mechanics or just human movement. They're phenomenal, clearly at structure, but that's like asking your accountant how to make a cake. They're not great at it. They know accounting, man. So it's like, what is the role that we each play? And we all have our own unique roles. That's why we all, all athletes, all coaches, we need a team around us, because everybody has different pieces of this whole human movement and human performance puzzle. So yeah.
Love that, Shawn. Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your time. We got 2 minutes over. Where can people find you? What kind of projects you got going on now? Just let people know.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you for having me on your program and giving me this opportunity to be in front of your audience. This is just, I'm honored to be here. So thank you for reaching out. And I love hearing you talk about my stuff. Like, dude, we haven't even met in person. You haven't even seen it, but I know you know about this, just the way you talk about it. It's cool. So it's really, it's a huge compliment having me on. But you already mentioned our website, Square1System.com. I have the same handle on Instagram. So about, at Square1System. That's where I'm most active. If people want to kind of come and check our stuff out, the projects we have going on, we got a lot of my information now in an online format. So we kind of sell two different programs. We have one for people who want to become a student of our system, where there's a whole skill developmental piece. That's called Square One. That's Square One. But we have this other piece called Signal 6, and that's much more affordable. And what's cool about it, it requires no skill. It requires very little understanding. and it's designed for coaches who are working with teams of athletes. And that product's under $100. It's called Signal 6. So it's kind of like a no-brainer, no skill. You can implement it really quick with groups of athletes. I think that a lot of baseball coaches, a lot of strength and performance people, that'd be a great product to kind of test the waters with us and see some cool things happen. So those are big projects that are already done.
Video. That's like an online video training, right?
Yep. And so the Signal 6 is an hour-and-a-half program. If you're really like, that's too long for you, there's like 2 videos within it. The practical pieces, you jump ahead. It's like,
well, I hope you can see the value to take the time and
yeah. If you want to hear me talk and blather for an hour and 10 and all the other videos, but there's like 2 videos in there. You just do that, emulate that, you're golden. And then just other projects, some stuff we're allowed to talk about. You know, I can't mention specific teams that we're working with, but we got a couple teams in the major leagues looking at us right now, like individual coaches there. But then we got Square One, a couple teams in the NFL already. We got U.S. Special Forces have reached out over the last few months. So,
cool.
So I'm not going to talk about that yet, but we got some really cool stuff. If we can, I can't wait till we can talk about that. But yeah, so it's just more behind the scenes. We got some really cool things bubbling, and so some really high level people are looking at our stuff, and you know, guys like you, because what I find is once you get to a guy like you, you know, it's like you start running in the same circles. So all these D1 and professional and special force guys, you guys all know each other, so it's kind of fun. So. Like it seems like you guys are starting to let me in the cool club. So
well, it took a while for me to get in the cool club. So, you know, I know how it is to be able to go from the bottom of the heap, and, you know, not that it's bad or anything. It's just that nobody knows who you are yet, you know?
Right. And once they see you're doing good stuff and like, hey, this is good, then it's like, then you get their thumbs up and they want to tell their buddies, because people, I think most of us like to help other people, and that's really what it's about. So I think you're trying to help people with your audience and having me on, and I appreciate you helping me. So it's all about win-wins, man. I got to win, you got to win, and so does the client, so does the athlete. So I love what you're doing, man. So thank you.
No, and that's why I want to have you on. I mean, the big thing is helping kids, especially if it comes to pain, get out of pain. Probably nothing breaks my heart more than having a kid come in with lower back pain, or like the hitter pitcher that I work with talked about with the ulnar nerve thing. You know, it just breaks my heart, and I just want to be able to help them out, and there are many other coaches and parents and instructors just like us that want to do that. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you for coming on, Shawn. I know you're a busy guy, so you got in Pennsylvania, Chicago, you're going back and forth in 2 different headquarters. So I appreciate your time, brother, and maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point, I'm sure this year.
Very happy to do it.
Just got to get the good word out for you.
I really, really appreciate what you're doing, man. Thank you so much.
You got it, brother. Have a good rest of your week.
You too, man. Thanks.
All right, Shawn.